So, hello everyone. This is Simone Padour, and I've got a new guest this week, Suzanne Merritt. Hello, Suzanne. We can see your hands. Um,
Hello.
she's only a pair of hands. That's all you can see. No,
Only just for a moment.
there you are. So this is Dirty Drinking and Making Shit on the Fly. Is the name of this this entity. Um, so Stephanie's not with us this week here. Missing her. So she usually comes on, and I was racking my brain, and I was like, who should I have on? And I actually woke up one morning, and your name was in my head, and I was like, well, there we are then.
There we go.
So Suzanne and I have known each other for quite a while now. I used to work in her cafe that she had. It had marvelous food, and I miss it. Actually, I just miss Suzanne's food, really, because she's in Nova Scotia now, and we used to live in the same town in BC. So, and those are her lovely paintings in the background there. So, you're doing abstract today, is that right, Suzanne?
Yes, yes, I am abstract. I've been painting much more abstract lately than anything, I think. Um,
Uh-huh.
when I was a teenager, I used to do a lot of ink and pencil drawing, detailed, fine
Yeah.
lines. I don't do that anymore. I haven't drawn anything in a long, long time, truly. You I'm just much more interested in the colors now, just in the combinations, the fun, the how does this work with that? It's.
Yeah, it's funny how it changes. I mean, much like yourself, I was very similar in that I was super detailed, all about, well, getting it right for one thing. Like,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
huge for me. Um, but also like I enjoyed the detail as well. I liked that sense of satisfaction of, you know, having it look like the thing I was looking at.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably did a lot of drawing for 10 or 15 years, probably. And then I just stopped. I don't know why. I just, I guess I've done enough. It's like painting sunflowers. I painted nothing but sunflowers for a decade. And I wouldn't paint very often. Every year or two, I would paint something, and I
Yeah.
paint more often now, but it's much looser, much, more whatever, I
Well,
feel
and you were
like.
really into silk painting for a while there too, weren't you?
Yeah, I did a lot of silk stuff. And silk is beautiful, and the way that the colors play on silk is fantastic. But a lot of what I did then, there was a sort of production line of a certain type of silks. People really wanted a lot of rainbow silks. So it got actually a little creatively numbing to just do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
It's you know,
Yeah, for sure. I was watching The Big Bang Theory yesterday, and Penny was making these little flower barrettes, and she was so pleased with herself that somebody wanted to buy them. And then Sheldon came in, and he was like, well, basically, if you keep going the way you're going, you're paying yourself $5 a day.
oh God, yeah, yeah,
And it was really interesting because you then looked at like, okay, so if you're going to make this a viable business, what is required and blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you know, it was completely out of her hands, and she was like, oh, well, what do I do? Like,
yeah,
um, and so I find it interesting to take what you make and, make a profit, but as you say, not make it mind numbing or
yeah.
completely.
I
Yeah.
think anybody in the arts always has that dilemma, that where is the line between productivity, efficiency, and living,
Yeah.
and getting the creative edge in there as well.
Yeah.
I think it's really challenging,
Yeah.
and price your art and sell your art,
Yeah.
and and when you look at uh, where people spend their money and what they're willing to spend things on, you take your computer into somebody and they keep it for, whatever time, and you're spending minimum 60, 80, $100
Hmm.
to get it, right? But if they look at a print and they go, $80, are you kidding me? Like And you think, gee, I spent a lot of time on that, way more than your computer geek spent on,
Yeah.
design.
Yeah. Well, and it cost you $30 to print it to begin with.
Yeah,
And yeah, yeah, yeah,
didn't cost a computer guy anything to have a look at your stuff and punch a few keys,
yeah.
but go, it's the way
Well,
the world.
what's interesting is I've been watching like different artists that have made successful businesses out of their art. Like one of them is our friend Coco,
Yeah,
who's out there all the time,
yeah.
um, making and selling and doing, and then there's another artist that you probably know, Laurel Hibbert,
Hmm.
who's also from the Valley, Cowichan Valley, who does amazing stuff. And what I've noticed about both of them is they're never out of the public eye. Like,
Their sense of community, right?
yeah.
And part of Coco's success is partly based on who Coco is as a person.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
personality that everybody wants that part of Coco,
Yeah.
that piece
And she's
of
a
her.
storyteller. She's always telling a story, and people are
Yeah.
engaged by that and want to know more. And um,
And she's very ingrained in her community,
yes,
you
yes,
know. Uh,
yeah, yeah. So I've been sort of looking at this myself because I mean, promotion is not really one of my favorite things to do for myself.
for most artists as well, right? It's
For most people, I think. I mean, there's some out there that are fabulous at it, but I think they're actually few and far between.
yeah.
Um, and I talked to a friend about it the other day who has her own business, and um, she does courses and classes on different tools to use with kids or people that have OCD, autism, ADHD, and that kind of thing. And she said at one point she had to realize that if she was ever going to get it off the ground, she was going to have to hire somebody to do her promotion.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it is an art in itself to do that, and it is definitely my least favorite part of it,
Yep,
for
me too.
sure. For sure.
Yeah. Da, da, da,
For
da.
many, I didn't want to sell anything. I never did. I gave it all away.
Yep.
And not because I didn't want the money, it
Yeah.
was because it like I was selling a part of my soul to
Yeah.
sell the stuff, like there's a certain investment, soul investment in
Hmm.
your work, and I was perfectly willing to give it away, but to prostitute it out just didn't feel right. I'm a little more into the prostitution now than I was before.
You've become easier.
Yeah, that's right. We're slutty in the art world.
Well, that's a conversation Steph and I have often had is like there's such a stigma if you do well as an artist. There's a stigma if you don't do well as an artist, and there's a stigma if you do well as an artist. Like it's like
Yeah, and I think sometimes, have you seen Iris Scott? Have you seen her work?
no.
So look it up. She doesn't use a brush. She works very large, like 6 feet by 8 feet paintings, and she
Uh-huh.
does it fingers only. Phenomenal work.
Oh
She's
yeah.
based, and she sells for big money,
Yeah.
big money. Sells all over the country, all over the world, and she's prolific. And I think good for her, because
Mhm.
to get 15 grand for a painting or 30, or because that's where she is. She's in that realm of
Yeah.
receiving that sort of funding for it. But
Yeah.
and sometimes I think, are we pricing our stuff too low? Are we, because there's the line between finding a mass market and
Yeah.
finding your niche market, which is a
Yeah.
whole different thing.
Yeah.
But just taking it to the next level and saying, I've worked for 30 years as an artist. You get to pay me for that.
Yeah.
Pay me for the 30 years it's taken me to get to here.
Yeah. So this is Iris Scott, just for our viewers. This is some
That's,
of her work, and it is really beautiful. I love the
yeah.
color.
She's doing this grand series of all these find some of her dog, yeah, those dog splattering ones where the dog is shaking and
Oh, wow. That's so much fun.
it's fantastic. And she does them over and over again. You know, I don't
Yeah.
know how many dog pictures she has, but she says she learns something new every time that she
Yeah.
does it, and that's she does it over and over again. You know, so
Well, there's such a sense of movement and different kinds of movement too.
the
Like,
detail of it, it's fantastic. You know, it's
yeah,
more in style than
yeah,
say my painting or your painting. You know, I mean,
yeah.
I
Well,
don't have the patience to do impasto because I can't wait for it to dry. You know,
well, that's the
so
funny thing that you mentioned that is that that's what I'm playing with the little painting that I've started. I'll just share my screen. I saw this piece, um, and yeah, that drying thing is is annoying.
you know, I don't even use I have some open paint still, but
Yeah,
I'm going away from them. As soon as I use them up, I'm buying the ones that aren't open because I can't wait for them to dry.
yeah, I know. It's just so. This is the piece that I saw, and I thought there's an element that I like about it. I think what it is the different tones and values
Yeah.
that I really like to capture. And I did a painting, let's see if I can find it, a few years ago of my dad's old property. And I was really inspired by the group of seven at the time. Um,
Inspired by them, though. I mean, really,
I
fantastic.
know they're just, and specifically Tom Thompson. Like I just,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
I,
I think he was definitely powerhouse
yeah,
for sure of them.
yeah,
And
for sure. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. Maybe I don't have it online, which is possible. Because I don't really ever want to sell it. There's certain pieces that I will price higher because I'm like, if you're gonna sell, you're gonna sell for lots of money.
yeah, I have some that Will's like saying, you're never selling that, you know, never.
Yeah.
He actually tries to say that about everything I do, but honey, some of it's got to go, you know.
I think my stepfather does the same thing with my mother's paintings.
Right?
Um,
How are they doing?
they're okay. Yeah, they're out and about and doing stuff, and yeah. So I'm off to visit them shortly.
I saw that. Nice.
Yeah, providing my Canadian passport comes in on time.
Yeah. No,
Nothing like living on the edge, you know.
keep it interesting.
Ah. Okay, well, this isn't a great shot, but it'll sort of give you an idea. I was into doing watermarks on my pieces at one point in time because I thought that was important. So you can see. So what I like about it is the different depths of greens and that
Right.
kind of thing. It doesn't show it off to its best ability, but the other thing I love is like so many times people are like, oh well, if it's a trunk, it's green. I'm like, but what if it's not? Like,
Yeah.
um, so
I
that's
like
yeah,
really playing with colors, and that's what I think that I really liked about the group of seven is that they stuck the colors where they weren't really there. You know, like they really pushed what was in nature. You know,
hmm.
took it to another place. You know, they would see those bits of pinks and oranges and just augment it.
Well, then it starts to make your eyes start to look a little differently too, because you're like, oh, is that really brown or is that something else? Which is what I really like. So, but the thing I find I struggle with is not getting detailed and not blending too much. Like I'm really trying to just sort of push myself and see what else I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what this little piece is attempting to do. But so far, it's getting fairly blendy. So we shall see. All right. I'm going to stop yakking and start painting. Oh, but first of all, I have to tell you this amazing experience I had today. I had a horseback riding lesson, and people make fun of me saying horseback riding, but that some people get confused when I just say riding. They don't get it. So um, I was on this radio show last night, and it was called Horses Talk, We Listen, and I was asking questions to this woman who was talking about having a better connection with your horse, and different tools you can use to do that. And one of them was like, when you're on the back of the horse, you pull energy from the earth through your horse up through yourself and out the top of your head, and you don't have to visualize anything, you just ask and it happens. And I mean, I've been trying that for years and nothing's ever happened, and I finally gave up because I was like, you know what, screw this. And she's like, well, to be honest, I didn't feel anything for probably the first year or two of myself doing it. She said, but I kept doing it. And I was like, fine, I'll try it again. So I went out there today and I did it while I was on him, and I just kept doing it, because that's the other thing she said, was just keep doing it. I was like, okay. And then my instructor said, well, what do you want to do today? And I was like, I want to try this, connecting with the horse thing, thinking she'd be like, oh, okay, well, do this that I'd already done. But she didn't. She said, okay, well, we're going to take away your reins today. And I was like, pardon? What? That's what I steered with.
To connect.
Yeah. So basically what I did is I played with that tool of connecting with him with the energy,
Right.
and he became really relaxed. And this is a horse that is usually very tense, and hepped up and ready to roll. And so I thought, well, this riding without reins is going to be interesting. And he was totally relaxed. And I just used my legs the entire time. And then she's like, okay, now we're going to walk, trot, and canter without reins. Oh, crap. And so I did. And it was amazing. And I was even able to stop him with just my body weight.
That's cool.
And it was like flying. It was amazing.
Well, I think you probably, get out of your head about it, which is good. And like you say, just into the energy of it.
Yep.
Which that's what we all are, right? We all are energy. So the hook into that is perfect.
Yeah, I've never experienced anything like it. All right, I'm bringing out the oranges, Suzanne.
Bringing out the oranges, you do that.
I'm getting in there. I used to do this thing with my students where I had these, I wish I could find them somewhere else. You might know, actually, because there's sort of a Waldorf type feel to them. They're wooden colored blocks, basically, but they're not painted blocks. I think they've been either stained or something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah, and your warm blues, your cool blues, like all the warm and cool colors of each color. Mm-hmm. And what I used to do is I used to take a painting or a picture and get my students to grab the blocks and see if they could pick out the colors in the painting.
All right, yeah.
And it was really cool. All right, I'm just going to get a brush. I'll be right back. So I'm curious. There's this exercise that I was told about that where you look around your house and you see what shapes are repeat. Like it could be in your furniture, it could be in the pictures you choose or paint, or the things you collect.
Okay.
Yeah. So what have you noticed? Like, what do you notice when you?
Do I have? Round. I seem to have round.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would, go for the softer round, not the angular, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, Frank Lloyd Wright has his place, but
Yeah. I find it's a bit cold sometimes.
absolutely, yeah. And I find round is warmer. It's a
Mm-hmm.
warm shape, you know.
Yeah. I find I have a lot of sort of round, like ginger pots and stuff like that. They're sort of round but squat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you using the liquid acrylics?
Yep. I am using well, golden. They're not. They're you're. I can't see my picture so little. There we are. Two
Uh-huh.
stuff. Yeah. And this one is regular, and like I say, I still have some of the open that I'm using up too, but I'm trying to get away from it. Mostly I use gold, and I have, if I'm looking for a particular color and they're out or something at the store, I have some Liquitex as well.
Yeah.
But I like the golden.
What do you like about it?
I like the consistency and the colors. They're fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I only use 6 colors in my palette thing. I got tons of
Right.
them. Because I know you can mix from your basics, but
Yeah.
there's some of them you're not mixing them. There's no way you're gonna mix,
Yeah.
and when you the ultramarine with yellow as opposed to a cerulean with yellow, you're getting something totally different.
Yes.
So
Well, I find because I started out, just I just painted for the fun of it, and then I went to art school, which isn't always a good idea, folks. Um, Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And there's so many rules that, you find yourself doing stuff that isn't really working for you, but because you were told that that's the way it's done,
yeah,
it,
I hate rules. I don't believe in them.
I
I
agree.
think I don't know. I guess you need to learn rules in order to know how to break them. But that's what my thinking on rules is.
Yeah, I think sometimes, but sometimes it just, I know like some of the artists that I like either went to school with or met later and they went to art school, they're like, I had to unlearn everything I learned in art school. And I was like, that's
Well,
a
I went to art
lot
school.
of money.
I never even took art class anywhere.
Yeah,
Not even in high school did I take art. I took all sciences. So
I just find that hilarious.
I know it's pretty wild. Eh?
Well, and sometimes I find that like if you use a color a lot and then trying to mix that same color over and over, again, like unless you have like little bottles of them floating around, which I find annoying, um, it's just a headache.
For sure. But you mustn't have an art store near you, do you? You're somewhat rural.
Um, we didn't used to, but one opened up a few months ago, probably about 10-minute drive away.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, much to my relief. But I'm not quite as rural as I used to be, so that helps. Although I miss that. I like
Yeah,
being in the middle of
it's
nowhere.
the nice, the quiet. Eh?
Yeah. You don't have to worry about your neighbor, doing a barbecue when you're trying to dry your laundry, things like that, which I find vaguely annoying.
I always get lots of paint on my hands when I.
Ooh, I saw a cool thing for getting paint off clothes the other day, which is rubbing alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get much on my clothes. I get it all over my hands.
All right. Well, working with kids, I found that I got it on my clothes.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah. Yeah.
Smear. Thanks, buddy.
Do you paint a lot? Like often?
I have been lately since Steph and I started this show. It's sort of been a weekly thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's I know it sounds trite, but it's changed my life. Like,
Well, that's good.
yeah, having to like get out my stuff and just sit down and do it. Whereas before, like yourself, I used to go, a long time,
Right.
which I realized actually wasn't very kind to me because it's really something I love.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
I'm amazed at like Coco. She paints. God, she paints a lot.
Yeah, like every day she's out there doing it. And
Doing something. Like she's one of the more prolific artists that I know.
hmm
But then she does it from a different level too. I think
mm,
it's really the tortured artist sort of.
yeah, she does do that sometimes. But I think also they speak to her too, so she's
Absolutely. She lives them, dreams them. I never
yeah,
dream about
channels
that.
it. No, me neither. I dream about lots of things, but that's not one of them.
No, I never.
Well, this is either going to be really cool or look like a big mud puddle.
Yeah, the beauty of acrylics is
You
yeah,
can
mud.
paint over it.
I've seen them white over. Yeah.
My mother's always scandalized when I paint over my paintings.
Oh, this is some little canvas that I found that I had started something years ago.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, I don't even remember doing it. Um, and I thought, "Geez, what was I doing there?" So I just painted over it. I'll just do something today. Oh, I have a very poor memory for things that I've done. I have some things, packed away, and every once in a while I open a drawer and I go, oh, completely forgot about that. Don't remember.
You know, there's certain pieces that I've done that I don't actually have a cognitive, memory of doing it, or at least it's very fuzzy if I do. Or sometimes I'm really impressed. Like I'm like, oh, I did that. Ooh, that's pretty impressive.
I don't know. I don't seem to retain it or need to retain it. It's kind of a yeah, been there, done it.
Yeah.
And move on. Whereas I know for Will, he takes great pride in his, the things that he's made and his accomplishments and stuff. I don't seem to have that. I don't know.
Well, I think some people like they have a stronger attachment to their creations where I think some people that like for me, I know there's some paintings, even though I might take pride in it, they are not mine anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like they have become their own thing.
Hmm. It's interesting. I was reading something the other day about a musician, and he was talking about his songs. Bruce Hornsby, I don't know if you know
Uh-huh.
this. He was saying that he feels that his songs are, once he finishes them and they are complete and they're recorded, he doesn't consider them to be necessarily finished entities, that he considers them to be ongoing creations, so that,
Hmm.
when it's live, or if he'd be happy to re-record it on a different level, and he just lets them go to wherever they want to go, he says, because doing it the same over and over for decades would just be awful, and I think,
Yeah.
I agree. I can't see Stones, 40 years down the road and they're still singing the same songs, and wouldn't that just be awful?
It would be terrible.
But I guess everybody's different, right? I guess some people are totally happy having it that way and letting it be like that. But
Well, and I think some people, like with the lady with the dogs, is it becomes it might be slightly different, and it's the detail of that difference that they get into.
yeah, hers are all different. They're all different, so
Yeah.
they're, she's taking each one to a different place, as opposed to doing the same exact painting over and over again, which
Yeah.
is would be to sing the same song over and over again for years.
Although there's that artist in, do you remember in Amélie? Did you see that film?
What was the film?
Amélie,
Oh, yes.
where he paints the same Renoir over and over and over again.
Right.
And he says each time a different character talks to him in the painting. And he learns something about the painting every time but I guess that's more of a historical study. Like it's not actually your own work.
Sure. Yeah. And if he's learning something different every time, then it's not the same thing always.
No, this is true. It's kind of like for me style, like every once in a while, like I'm doing now, I like to push myself and just see if I can create in a different style.
Right.
I have to say the whole tortured artist thing I don't do very well. I'm terrible at that.
Well, I'm not, no. But just, it depends on all the rest of your psyche too, right?
I guess so.
Have you, we've been watching Shameless lately. We've just discovered it on
Uh-huh.
Netflix. Not the British version, the American one.
Uh-huh.
And it's interesting the level of chaos that these people seem to exist in.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sort of like the struggling tortured artist without being artists, like they're just swirls around them, like unbelievable mess. Some people just seem to, in a sense, thrive
Mm.
at that, you know, or some part of them must want to be there. Otherwise they
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Sort of living at that fever pitch, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't do that well.
No, me neither.
Calm. That's my preferred mode.
I mean, I can do drama. Don't get me wrong. Like I can have a spaz or like, but it's not very long lived. It's I get over myself pretty, and I often feel a little bit what's the word? Not ashamed, but a little bit like, hee hee, There's one girl I know that she says, she used to do drama a lot. Well, and she was an actress too, so it came naturally.
Right.
And then she'd feel bad about it. And then she said one day, she's like, you know what, like, I'm just gonna embrace it. Like next time I have a tantrum, I'm just gonna wallow in it and just go full bore. And she said it was funny because it was a lot more short lived because she
Sure.
was,
You're
yeah,
not trying to hold. Yeah.
yeah. I need to put something behind this. So who are you into at the moment as far as artists, Suzanne?
Um, Nobody. I don't look too many artists, really. I just, every once in a while I see something, I come across something, but I generally don't seek it out at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just let it kind of find me.
Mm-hmm. I often see things on Facebook where I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Iris Scott is somebody I generally, I'm impressed by what she does for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I love her bold palette, and the finger painting thing is pretty cool as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Getting messy is in my book. But I actually, as much as I paint and everything, I think my contribution to the world is more on the writing end than it is on the painting end, or
Mm.
any that I do. It's kind of art is sort of my sidekick, my
Your
hobby.
sidekick. Well, I had a really like this well, you've been on it, the radio show that we do.
Yep.
We had a gal on who's a writer, and it was so interesting because you know I'm that is not my forte. It's not something I enjoy doing. I've been having to do some in the past few days for work, and I'm just like
Yes,
it,
writing is what I love to do.
what's that?
Writing is what I truly love to do.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that like the what came up in the conversation was all the fallacies people have about writing, including myself.
Such as,
Such as that, like I had this point of view that you didn't have to edit because I had all these friends in school that I thought were just normal, and turned out they weren't normal, that just had this capacity to write off the cuff.
hmm
And so I always figured that that was the norm,
right?
not realizing that most people have to edit their stuff. It was until like fourth year university that I finally got it.
Right. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So just little things like that, you know,
hmm
I thought was normal and turned out not to be.
Yeah. I find I I can, for the most part, write without editing. It depends. If you're writing a paper for university, you definitely have to edit,
Yeah.
because you're working along. But I started writing a food column for a
Uh-huh.
local paper here, which is it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Uh, he's given me carte blanche and said, write about whatever you like, because I
Cool.
submitted a few examples for him, and he said, yeah, go right ahead. Just the biggest problem is keeping it short enough. I'm only given 400 words, which is pretty darn short.
That's
Uh,
very short. Yeah.
so, but there's an online version where I can say more and add recipes and things like that. So
Cool.
it's really great. Yeah. So I'm having a lot of fun doing that. It's wonderful.
Well, and it's so different when you're writing about something that you're really excited about. Like,
Yeah.
when I'm
Hmm.
writing about things that I'm not excited about, it's like going to the dentist.
Absolutely. But I find, I've been trying to do a food blog, for
Yeah, I
years.
remember that.
Run out of steam quickly on it. But I
Mm.
think it's because I'm trying to make it be something that it doesn't want to be.
Ah,
Like,
yes.
see, ultimately, I don't really want to write recipes. I got hundreds of them, but I don't
Yeah.
want to write about them because that's tedious as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
I want to write about food and life and that sort of experience on the food level.
Hmm.
So he's letting me do that. So I'm like, great,
That's awesome.
perfect.
Well,
Yeah.
and that was the other thing that we talked about on this show was that there's this idea out there that a lot of, like, as you say, like recipes or things that are a lot of creative people would find a little bit tedious because they are always on to the next thing, right?
Right. Yeah.
She said there's so many people out there that are editors or writers that actually do that job for people, and people don't know that.
Yeah.
She said a lot of it is transcribed.
Sure. Of course. I have to wait for some drying to happen before I can do any more now. It's kind of dull. I can show you though. This is, let's see, try and get this in the picture here. This is our
Oh, that's
latest wax creation. And this
nice.
will, yeah, let me try and show you what it does. So it is, you burn a tea light inside,
Hmm.
then it shines through. They're fantastic little,
Oh,
so
wow.
making these.
Yeah.
And it's once again, it's just how the colors naturally just do. It's what they do. It's sort of a process very similar to marbleizing paper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You just layer on.
Nice. So do you just dip them afterwards?
Yeah, yeah. You make these. You actually make them over a form. You fill
Mhm.
a balloon with water,
Yeah.
and then put into your hot wax like 20, 30 times to get the right thickness of your wax. And then then the next process is just, you've probably marbleized paper, right? Where you
I think so, yeah.
thin layer on top,
Yeah.
so it's a thin layer of wax on top of a bowl of wax, molten wax, and then you dip in to get all of this. So it's pretty cool.
That's very cool. Awesome. And you're selling those, aren't you, at various places?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I remember the kids, like I would only do candle wax making or candles making twice a year
Mhm.
because it was such a thing. Like there was wax everywhere.
Yeah.
Um and you had to be on because I mean this is hot wax,
Wax. Right.
children.
Yeah.
And so we would do it for Christmas, for
Sure.
presents for their parents and stuff. And then they would forget about them too, because they'd be like all excited, and then they'd make them, and then I'd have all of these candles hanging around.
Right.
Oh. But yeah, the colors and the depth of just because it has a luminance that you don't get with
Yeah.
other things. Um, I know Steph and I talked about doing encaustic, and she, invested the stuff
Oh, I
in.
love And caustic, yeah.
And she said it unless you have the space like a studio set up.
Yeah.
um
That's my challenge right now is
I'd love to get, actually they call them in Britain, they call them Wendy houses, and basically it's a little garden shed or kids play shed, really, because it's got the little windows and the door and everything and little porch. um and a lot of people have them in their back gardens and use them as studios or
yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, I would need a really big studio because I do so many different things, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely on my agenda. My boyfriend wants a garage and I want a studio, so I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I know. Will and I talked about that too, to sort of have you'd need almost like a double-sided or a two-story.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually saw one last year sometime that was basically that. It was a garage downstairs and then a studio upstairs.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that would be amazing. 'Cause he could tinker away down there and
Mhm.
could break for tea, that kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah.
So what culinary adventures apart from the blog have you been on?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
What culinary adventures have you been on lately?
Um, Actually, we drove off to the other side of Nova Scotia, which isn't very far away, you know,
Yeah.
kind of long and skinny. But we went over to the Wolfville area and we stopped in at a Korean place that was fantastic. You know, I mean, unfortunately, we don't find very many places that are, I don't want to be a snob, but that are worth going out to as
Yeah.
far as can they do it better than I can?
Mhm.
and,
Yeah.
and how much it's costing me to get that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Because you know, we cook, you know, I mean, we never are. My pantry is jammed with all sorts of ingredients from every continent because we cook every single, you know, type of cuisine there is. But
You
this
do.
Korean,
And then
fantastic,
you
you
do
know,
fusions as well.
of course.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really, yeah, it's just a jumping off point, you know. So,
I
but it
saw a
was
neat
really,
fusion the other day that was Korean and Jamaican.
interesting.
So they would take like Jamaican jerk chicken
Uh-huh.
and do the Korean dumplings,
Oh, interesting, right?
and with kimchi.
Right, yeah,
And so they've got the spice going on, but they're very different.
interesting. Jamaica was the first place I ate goat.
Was it?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't too keen on eating goat, you know, I must admit,
No, I can't say it's my first choice.
but it was everywhere. Took me in
Really?
the, oh yeah. I was, oh God, I don't know how old I was. I was a young teen when I was there, 13 maybe.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and goat. I'd never quite seen the disparity between, you know, the 1% and everybody else.
Yeah.
The place I really saw that was in Jamaica.
Yep.
Sort of filtering into the rest of the world as that now, but it
Hmm.
was quite an eye opener there.
Yeah. I remember seeing that when I went to the Caribbean with my dad as a kid. I mean, I'd never really seen poverty before.
Yeah, not
And
not to that extent. Well, wherever it's warm enough that you're not going to freeze in the winter, that's where you see it, right?
yeah.
Really, because you know the living in the tin shacks is
Yep.
it's something that you only read about, and until you've actually seen it, it's
Yeah.
something.
I remember just looking at it and just being, I just couldn't compute it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. So there's an election coming up for you folks, I see.
I know. I was on Facebook today and I was like, what? What's going on?
I wonder if that's going to backfire on her.
Yeah, I have a feeling it might.
But whatever. Not
I
my.
wouldn't, I wouldn't mind. She kind of reminds, I'm not a very political person, but when they remind me of a character from Harry Potter and not one of the good ones, she reminds me of the lady with the cats. The one with on the, do you know the one I mean with the plates with all the kittens?
Oh, the one who wore pink all the time?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I forget her name. Liam would know her name.
Yeah. I can't remember, but
Yeah, she was kind of evil.
yeah, there's this sort of underhandedness that is present that you can sense, but you can't see obviously because it's underhanded. But
Right.
and she doesn't seem to have any gumption. She kind of reminds me of during the reign of Henry VIII and Mary Queen of Scots and Elizabeth, like there was just sort of this jumping sides, and she'll just jump to whatever side is required, whether it's has any integrity or not.
It's unfortunate, but that's politics too, a lot.
It is some worse than others.
I would not want to be a politician,
Oh God, no.
but I think it takes a pretty strong individual to be able to withstand all of the things that you need to
Yeah,
work with. You can go in with the best of intentions, but how exactly are you navigating the treacherous waters of you know, between getting things done?
there was a really great British drama done of this woman she was a manager of a local grocery store, and she saw this idiot, doing his political thing outside her shop, and they got into some kind of fisticuffs, him and this other guy, and she thought, I can do better than this. So she did. She went out and she ran for office, and she ended up becoming the prime minister. But as you say, that stress of always having to look from every side, and then her family being in the media, and just like it
And what
was,
skills do you have to make to get your thing done? You
yeah,
know, something that's really important to you and that somebody else is blocking it, so you have to promise them something
yeah,
and
oh, a bit shady.
so you'll probably never see this, but when I finish this, I'm doing this for Will, and it's gonna have um, some words on it written over. Have you tried? I've been trying those Liquitex markers. They're fantastic. Have you ever
Oh,
used them?
really?
Yeah, I like them. I like them a lot.
Huh. I haven't tried those.
I got some a little while ago. I just got white and black and gray just because I thought I'm not going to be, it was mostly just for words that I wanted it. I didn't want to paint with them necessarily. I just want to be able to write on top and say something.
Yeah.
Because I hate trying to write with a brush.
Oh, it's not
Awful.
great.
But they're really nice.
Huh. I'll have to take a look for those. I'm always looking for something new that I can get from my mom that, you know, she hasn't tried, because she likes experimenting with different types of things. And so yeah.
Cool.
Alrighty, I think we're almost at the top of the hour here.
We are. Nice.
I know, it goes so fast.
So when are you going out to the coast?
I am going out the 4th of May. And I'm there for a few weeks. I'm going to go to a horse clinic out near my brother's. So I'm going to stop in and have a visit with him and maybe drag him to the clinic. I don't know. Yeah, and I think my mom's going to come up and visit with us as well. And
Well, that'll be good.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, just catching up with people. I do have to work at the same time, so that always makes it a little bit tricky.
All right.
So so I'm going to be doing that and juggling work at the same time. So yeah. So that's the thing with not teaching, is you don't get those nice big holidays anymore.
Right. Months off. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like that part of it where you work your butt off all year, and then you just sort of slump and then you recharge your batteries, and then you go for another, 3 or 4 months. And so, yeah. Alrighty. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there. So I'm just going to say goodbye to all our viewers, and thanks for joining us. And I'll put this up on YouTube shortly. And you can take an hour to paint out of your week, which is what we do. So thank you very much. And thanks, Suzanne, for joining me. And I'm going to stop the recording here. So toodaloo.